No advertising in a manner indicating that the property is being offered for a private party. So you can't put a sign in the yard that says for sale and put your cell number. That looks like a for sale by owner. You've got to let them know you're an agent. For sale, Raymond Modulin Group. All right? You cannot make it look like it's a for sale by owner. You also cannot use what they call, what's the word? I just lost the word. Where you use post office boxes and, yeah, but there's a word for that. Where you can't, a blind ad. Can't use a blind ad. A blind ad is where you might use a post office box and someone calls and you go, well, that was for 12 Smith Street. And then the next person that calls, oh yeah, that was for 13 Jones Street. You're using one ad for multiple. Blind ads are also done a lot by builders. I hate to say it. When you see a picture in the house on the MLS and you call them and they go, oh, well, that's the model home that we're actually selling, the one that that's technically a violation. They're not showing the house that they're selling. That's a blind ad. So post office boxes, wrong street addresses, vague addresses, anything that doesn't show the real house is a blind ad. That's not allowed. Yeah, that would be, a production home would be a better idea, where they show the model home and it's really not the home they're selling. They're selling the lot over there where they're going to build. Yeah. Okay, so they're not really showing the house that's for sale. You cannot use signs in a yard unless it's truly for sale. What are you laughing for? I thought maybe you knew my story. Oh, I did it. You know those reindeer at Christmas that have the little lights on them that you put out in your front yard? My neighbor and I were always at battle each other, and I really couldn't tell if we were really battling or just kind of fun battling. I came home one day, and we had two reindeer out in the front yard, and I came home one day, and he'd put my two reindeer in a compromising position on the front yard. And I asked him, John, did you do that? And he's like, what? I have no idea. So the next day when he left, I put a for sale sign in his front yard. And he came home. He's like, did you do that? I'm like, no. But I got two offers for you if you'd like to talk to me. So you can't do that. You can't put a sign in the yard if it's not for sale with the intent of somebody calling going, hey, I saw your sign on 12 Smith Street. And you go, oh, I just sold that. But I got one over on 13 Jones Street. You can't do that. That's called the old bait and switch. You can't do that, all right? No licensee may buy a property with his firm without first making his position known. So when I list a property, you got to make your position known. If you buy for yourself, like I told you I did, on the purchase agreement, I put I'm a licensed agent. On the listing agreement for the one in Bloomington, I put I'm a licensed agent. Got to make my position known. I cannot receive a commission without making all parties known that it's my property, like I did when I purchased. I got paid a commission, even though I was the buyer. I let them know I'm the buyer, and I have a license. And in general, always disclose. Managing brokers are authorized to participate in a referral program. That's what we talked about. You can put your license in referral, send them to me, I'll do all the work, and then I give you a portion of my commission as a referral fee. The client has to agree to that. You can't just shuffle off somebody. You would say, hey, I'm going to send you to Raymond. Is that okay? Yeah. You'd call me and say, hey, I'm going to give you a client. Will you pay me a referral? Yeah, I will. Okay, now we have permission. We can do it. Must have a written agreement with the cooperating broker concerning fees. So if you did that to me, you and I would do what's called a professional services agreement, where I would say, I agree to pay you 25% of the selling agent's commission that I receive for the person, Billy, Joe, Jim, Bob. That way we have an agreement so that when Billy, Joe, Jim, Bob buys, I can't tell you, well, I don't even know who you are. We got an agreement. All right?
So, Raymond, when we bought our house, or was looking, and we didn't, he couldn't go to Bloomington and Columbus, so he referred us to an agent in Bloomington, so that's the one referral, correct?
Right.
But then, the original agent that he referred us to was not available, and then they referred us to another agent within that Bloomington office.
Now, the agent they referred you to was the office who picked one of their agents to help. And she's busy, so I'm going to assign it to her. So there wasn't a referral of a referral. It would be, in essence, you referred it to me, and because they both work for me, I said, hey, one of you guys want to do this? She's like, yeah, I'll do it. And then says, oh, I can't. Okay, I'll just move it over to you. It's still just one referral because they both work for me anyway.
The same office, just a different agent.
Yeah.
When we showed up to meet that agent said, oh, sorry, Bob Smith was busy today, I'm taking over.
Yes, because you guys all represent me. We haven't got to this yet. It's going to start getting fun next week. As far as the state goes, I'm the only agent in this company, and you guys all work for me. So whether Maggie shows up representing Raymond or Tiffany shows up, it doesn't matter. It's still me. All right? And I might tell you as the buyer, hey, I'm going to send Maggie to work with you. She's really good. She's bilingual. She knows all that good stuff. And she shows up and goes, Maggie couldn't make it today, so Raymond gave it to me. Okay, doesn't matter. It's still my company and still referral to me.
What's the standard referral?
There is no standard, and you can't ask that question. That violates the Sherman Antitrust Act. That's called collusion. 25% of the fee that you... Typically, it's 25% of the commission I earn. So if you bring me a buyer and I get 3%, you would get 25%. That agent gets 25% of the 3%. All right? And that comes off the top, not my portion. And then the rest would be split between the broker and I based on whatever split we have. And there's always two ways to look at this. You know, I have to give away 25% of my commission, which means I'm only going to earn 1.4%. Or, hey, that's a business I didn't have before, so I'm earning 1.4 more than I did. It all depends on how you look at it. All right? You are an independent contractor of me. You must work under an independent contractor agreement. When you come work for me, or if you come work for me, or whoever you go work for, will sign a contract between you and the company that says you're an independent contractor, I don't take your taxes out, I don't pay your health care, you can't do this, I got to do that, yada, yada, yada. So you are, by law, an independent contractor of the company you are working for. I cannot make you show up to meetings. You're an independent contractor. I can't tell you to wear the Modulin Group shirt. You don't want to wear it? Don't wear it. Because I don't have control of the way you do your company or your business. All right? All I can do is, hey, you can't do that, and that violates license law. That I can do because I'm here to guide you through that. But if you want to sell to all Harley's, Hells Angels, motorcycle gang, I can't say, don't sell to them. Or you got to work today. You got to be on the floor. Can't do that because that's telling you how to do your business. You're an independent contractor. Securities brokers. Hey, don't sell securities. Like stocks and bonds, okay? You guys know what a REIT is? R-E-I-T. It's a real estate investment trust. Simon's one of the largest in the world. All right? It's a stock. When you go buy shares of Simon, you're buying a stock. Even though he's buying real estate, you're not buying shares of real estate, you're buying shares of the company. So I cannot sell shares of a REIT because it's a stock. You have to go to a stockbroker. All right? That's what it's saying. Don't practice being a stockbroker by selling shares of REITs. Here's the next one I love. Psychologically affected properties.
I had a question on that when I was doing,
A psychologically affected property is one that's also known as a stigmatized property.
like somebody died there.
Stigmatized means it has gained a reputation that makes it an unwanted property for some reason. There are 5 reasons a property could be stigmatized. Death, and it's any death, natural causes, homicide, suicide, any of those.
Are you supposed to be told ahead of time before you buy a house if somebody died in it?
Hold on. I'm going to start at the end of the book one class and work backwards. That way we can get all this fun stuff out of the way first. We'll get to it. Hold on, Dusty. Death, homicide, suicide, natural causes, right? Commission of a felony, like rape. That would be a felony. And the others. My mind just went blank. Gang-related activity, the manufacture of methamphetamines, or the discharge of a weapon by a policeman in the line of duty. Those 5 things will cause a property to be stigmatized. So watch this. If the cops break into a house where a gang is cooking meth and they shoot one and kill him, you can get all 5 of them at one time, is the way I look at it. You guys remember, like OJ's, the house where Nicole Brown was murdered? That would be a stigmatized property. What's the one here in the city years ago where they killed the 9 people in the house and shot them like execution style? Yeah, you remember that? And there was kids and family and all that. That would be another one of those houses. All of these are psychologically affected properties. Here's the key. You are not, I repeat, not required to voluntarily disclose this information. I do not have to tell you voluntarily that this house is the place of a homicide. This is going to mess with Dusty's mind here with the innocent not versus not guilty thing. If a person asks, hey, was somebody killed here? I cannot give misleading information. Didn't say I had to say yes. It says I can't give misleading information. So you come walking in and say, hey, is this the house those people were killed in? I could say, we have chosen as a company at the Modulin Group, we don't discuss those topics involved in real estate. That's acceptable. Yeah, that's not misleading. What I can't say is, no, and have my fingers crossed. You know, I can't lie to you, but I don't necessarily have to say yes. It almost goes along with that when somebody goes, are you guilty? And they go, I plead the 5th.
Yeah, that's kind of shady, isn't it?
I don't know, is it? Most people think, well, that means he's guilty. No, you have the right to not incriminate yourself, whether it's I might say something completely correct and say it wrong, and it may look bad. So in other words, I'm just not going to say anything. That's this kind of scenario. I don't have to tell you voluntarily, and if you don't ask, I don't have to tell you. If you do ask, I can't lie to you. If you say, was this the place where the people were killed? I would say, like, okay, step over the chalk outlines and we'll talk about it. Now, there are a couple other things now that are causing some uproar. One is the meth lab. There is a database that the state is starting for people for houses that have been arrested for meth lab that you can check the house on. Still not required for us to disclose it yet. The other problem is those that are on the list are only the ones that are caught. Yeah. That's like I never did cocaine when I was younger. I just like to smell it. I don't know if you can smell meth lab. I've never been in a meth lab. I wouldn't know.
I hate to say it, there's a bunch on the west side right now, and they're all in foreclosure, and all the investors are...
Boy, you seem to know a lot about meth labs.
I don't. I just seen a few on auction lately.
I've got a friend.
I have all my teeth.
The other one is people now are starting to accept A psychologically affected property is a property where the reputation gives it a history and not necessarily the actual act itself. Let me give you an example. I have never heard anybody, I have not yet, and I know for a fact I've done at least one psychologically affected property because I listed my cousin's house where our grandmother died. She died in the back room. I know that. Never disclosed it, never been asked. But there's another one that's more popular that doesn't fit in here that I've been asked multiple times. What is it? Huh? Is it haunted? I've had that asked 4 or 5 times. I always say ask the ghost. I have no idea. That's not a psychologically determined property. Is it haunted? But here's an example of what I'm talking about. You guys know where the Hannah House is? Is the Hannah House haunted? We don't know, but it has a reputation of being one. Therefore, it has a history and a stigma about it. Another house would be houses under power lines. Everybody has this whole conservative idea of houses under power line, which, by the way, is not true. All right? Cool. Houses under power lines, there's never been a report that ever said anything about it. I know, that's the industry we came from, all right? But everybody has spread this urban legend of houses under power line, I'm going to get cancer. There's never been a correlation of children under that, you know.
Public articles that will give you like this research, and we couldn't really tell.
Yeah. But here's the other problem. I had a girl on the east side once that was looking at a house I had listed under a power line. And I kid you not, she told me, I'm not moving under the power line because I'm afraid I will catch cancer. As she was smoking and weighed probably 375 pounds. And I'm like, chick, the McDonald's is going to get to you long before this power line will get to you. So that's the other problem you got. Yeah, all right. Now, with that being said, I bet every one of the females in here today pointed at electromagnetic radiation right at your head before you even came to class. Right? It's called a hairdryer. And then worried about the power line as you stood there for 10 minutes pointing it at your head. And anytime you take an electrical current around a magnet, create electromagnetic radiation. If you were drying your hair while making your margarita in a blender, you would be, same thing going on twice, all right? I don't know, dude. You are preaching to the choir on Wi-Fi. Wi-Fi is one of the things that I'm going to look back in years and say, I told you guys so. We jumped on that technology so quickly that there's not a long enough study to determine if it's ionizing or non-ionizing radiation. And because the thing is, if you pull your phone out right now and see how many signals your phone's getting, guess what? So's your body. It's receiving all of those. And I am one of the first that's jumped on the bandwagon that said, man, we invented Wi-Fi, and then now it's proliferated that it's everywhere without really any kind of 20-year, 30-year studies to find out that we're going to grow a third ear out of the back of our head or something. So you are not required to transfer to disclose property. Agency, disclosure, and type. Any other question about psychologically? You're not required, but you can't lie. Yes, sir, ma'am.
So it doesn't go against like the code of ethics if you know the house was a meth lab and you're about to sell it to a family with kids.
There is a higher code of ethics you should subscribe to. Meaning, I'm a Christian, and I would believe that I probably would say something. I've had this discussion before. Same thing we're going to get into, you're going to find out later, about Megan's Law.
So you're allowed to disclose, you just don't have to.
Nah, it's all based upon what your client says to you. If your client says, I do not want you to disclose that, and we're not required to by law, and you do, then you've violated the against your own person. But you have to sleep at night in your own skin.
Like, I'm not gonna sell you that house.
Yeah.
But couldn't you determine that before you took the listing?
He could, but he could change his mind.
But I mean, for yourself, because you said that you don't necessarily have to take a listing.
You don't have to take the listing.
So you could sort of maybe,
So,
I just mean, if you're.
if we're going back to the psychologically affected property, your client could say, hey, someone was killed here, but I don't want you to disclose it. Or we know this was a meth house. I bought it at an auction. I've rehabbed it. And I want to sell it. And they say, but don't tell anybody. Okay, meth falls under that thing. It's not a mandatory disclosure. So now a person comes in with 4 children who's going to be crawling on the carpet where the meth is. If I tell them there's a meth problem or this was a meth house, I have now violated my own agency laws with my own client because I did exactly what he told me not to do and may have cost him the sale. If I'm not the listing agent and I know, oh, then I certainly would tell my client. Because, matter of fact, if you failed to tell your client something you know, then you're guilty.
So if they asked to see the property, and you're like, and you knew that there was a drug bust going on.
If I knew the house was a meth house and one of my buyers says, I want to see that house, it would be my obligation to tell my client what I know about that house. Hey, I'll go look at that house if you want to. I just want to let you know that was the one that was arrested was on TV the other night for meth. You still want to go see it? They go, yes. Okay.
And that's not steering?
No, that's not a protected class.
Be a conflict of interest if you are representing both parties. You got one saying don't say anything and you got the other one asking questions.
That's exactly why a lot of people don't do limited agency deals. The idea of getting paid twice is fantastic. My board, NAR says lawsuits jump like 700% against agents that are me, because the scenario's just like that, where there's a problem and one of your agents says, don't say anything, and this agent says, I want to know, how can I solve both problems? You can't. You legally cannot. Because if this client says, tell me if this is a meth house, and I know it was, and I don't tell him, that's a violation of my fiduciary responsibilities to him. But if I did tell him, I could be violating my fiduciary responsibilities to the seller who said, I don't want you to tell anybody. So while it is a good thing, I got 2 sides of the deals. Yeah, you got about a 7 times more chance of getting sued too. Even if it's not your fault. Because the first thing that happens when that deal breaks down, guess who they're going to blame? Oh, I heard that was a meth house. You heard that from my agent. I'm suing him. Well, no, actually I read it on the newspaper, but, you know,